It's now time, though, for Climate Control, where we unpick the debate around the climate. And on the agenda, MPs have warned that up to 10,000 people a year in the UK could die as a result of heatwaves if nothing is done. That's to avert this crisis, according to the report from the Environmental Audit Committee. The increased frequency of extreme heat events could also cost the economy £60 billion a year as MPs push for an emergency plan to deal with the looming crisis. So I'm joined now by meteorologist Jim Dale and also social commentator Paul Burgess. All right, well, I'm going to start with you because, Jim, it is really you who talks climate. So talk to me about weather, sorry. So talk to me about the weather. Why are we going to have these heat waves? And is it even true?
Yeah, it's true. I don't think the magic, is that the right word? Yes. I don't think they sort of brought the rabbit out the hat on this one. This is produced by scientists who are advising this particular committee of what will happen when temperatures move. Now, 1.5 degrees doesn't seem a lot, 2 degrees doesn't seem a lot, but as I've said before, if you put that into your human body, then it does make a big difference. And those that they're talking about are essentially the elderly and the infirm. That's where this is directed at. And those temperatures do make a difference when you get into the high 30s, low 40s. That does have an effect. Ask any doctor, ask any nurse. You will see an increase in people going into the NHS at that time, and that is what they're aiming at.
But you'd have that with cold, wouldn't you? So
yeah,
and more people probably die of cold, don't they?
Yeah, but I'm not in favour of anybody dying of cold or warm. So it's not a battle, a race to the bottom. It's a case of looking after at one side when it does go cold, which will happen later this week, for your information, and when it goes too hot in the same way. So I don't think anybody should be arguing that we shouldn't be looking after those that are going to suffer when...
Is this global warming, the heat waves and things? Are they an example of it?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt. The graph is in one direction only, and it does mean not every single day, not during the middle of winter, although... as you saw last week, as you may have seen last week, we saw the 20 degrees C in Northwest Islands, which is ridiculous for the time of year and a record. So it's going in that direction. I just think this is a case of looking at, and it isn't just about health, by the way. You saw the 60 billion.
Let me bring
60 billion is a lot of money.
Let me bring Paul in. So he says that this is definitely an example of global warming. These heat waves that we are supposedly going to be experiencing. Is that also your view with that as well?
No, it isn't. And if you look at this report, I mean, heat does kill. Yeah, heat can kill.
We know that.
And let's look back to 1911. Yeah, in 1911, over 41,000 people died in Paris from heat. Half of them babies. They didn't have air conditioning, of course, so they didn't have the air conditioning which fossil fuels would be needed for. But so, and by the way, the temperature then, and this is it, the temperature in 1911, this is on Jim's graph, that year was recorded as the coldest on Jim's graph, and it was the heat wave that killed 41,000 people.
What, in the same year?
In the same year. They adjusted it downwards, you see, historically. So I'm just joining some dots together there.
Yeah, go on.
OK, so then what this committee is advising, we have a minister about this, a minister appointed just to do things like paint your roof white and have shutters. So my advice to the public, if they believe this nonsense, is don't go on holiday. Don't go on holiday to the Canary Islands, you're going to die. Don't actually have a few degrees difference in temperature, you're going to die. And we need a minister now, and billions of pounds, apparently, spent on this. It's ridiculous. And you know what they're doing? They've advised that we name a heat period like we name storms, because that makes it bigger and more effective. So 20 degrees is all you need for a heat wave. 20 degrees.
Yeah, look, we shouldn't move away from what this is aimed at, and I already said it's aimed at the infirm, it's aimed at the very elderly who can't look after themselves.
No, but we get that.
At 40 degrees.
No, we get that. We get that. But we're we've now moved on, because we don't want anyone to die of heat or cold, and obviously the right advice is given. And if there are more events of either of these things, they need the advice. That's
and now
fine.
You've touched on it, yes.
But we've now moved on to ask about whether there's a link to this with global warming, and Paul has said not really.
And I say absolutely. And it isn't a case that 1911 didn't see a heat wave and people died. Of course, events that are extreme do occur from time to time in history. That is absolutely the case. But what we're not looking at here, or what we are looking at, is a seamless move upwards. So we're going to see more of this. This is exactly why the report has come in. It's not been suddenly sprung out of the rabbit's hole. As I say, it's scientific advice that means, and by the way, painting roofs white or surfaces white does make a big difference. You ever touch, when it's boiling hot in the summertime, you touch a white surface against a black surface and you will see the difference.
Listen,
in terms
I
of...
I get very hot in the summer.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, I love it.
And it's, well, you may love it, and there are...
Well, we know that. That's why black people are darker to absorb the heat, and why white people need to wear lots of suntan cream, because they deflect the heat.
And there'll be people out there who are looking at this programme saying, look, I'm OK with 40 degrees, it's not a problem. The point is there are many people who are not OK.
We know that, but we've moved on.
And they will suffer.
We've moved on from that, though, because we're asking why this is occurring, and you're saying it's global warming.
Well, I'm not just saying it. Everybody else, in terms of the scientific community, NASA, NOAA, the Met Office, WMO, the lot, they're all saying the same thing.
No, they're not. No, they're not. And what I've done over the months with Jim is present the data, and as soon as I present the NOAA data, the Met Office data...
No, you don't.
And so on.
No.
Jim, you're not even a qualified meteorologist, for God's sake.
But I am.
No, you're not.
You're
not a chartered meteorologist. You are not... You are not...
So
listen, let me explain.
Let him
He's
finish.
just accused me of not being a meteorologist.
Let me finish, then answer.
We'll come back to you on that.
There's an association in this country called the Royal Meteorological Association. It is the only, by Royal Charter, association deemed to certify meteorologists. And when you're a meteorologist, you're known as a CMET. I've just looked at the qualifications, and when I was checking that Jim wasn't that, when I was checking that he was just an observer in the Royal Navy, observing temperature gauges and things, when I did that, I checked to Mr. Dale. And funnily enough, the Mr. Dale, on the qualified meteorologist, I would have qualified for it, right? Because, you know, he was doing the same things as me. So I'm saying... He's not on the list.
Jim Dale,
OK, so from Paul, the extreme right-wing water resource ex-manager, OK, because that's what Paul is, not a climatologist by any stretch of the imagination. So...
what about you, though?
So my training was in the Royal Navy, qualified as a meteorological observer. That was 6 months and then 2 years probation, which you have to pass in order to be a meteorologist. I then spent 35 years at founded British Weather Service after a 2-year stint in a marine firm in London. Following that...
What about formal qualifications? Because
that is a formal qualification.
Paul also has experience like you, many years of it, which...
No, he's a water resource engineer.
Wait, let me finish. In my view, you can either have the qualifications or you've got lots and lots of experience, which you have over many years.
Which I have.
Let me finish. Which you are now citing as one of the reasons why you're a meteorologist. So he's no less of a climate scientist than you, a meteorologist.
No. So I'm also a published author, 2 books. I'm also an expert witness in court where I do murder, manslaughter, RTAs. You don't get to go in court as an expert witness unless you are a qualified expert.
Yes,
they see my qualification.
Nobody said you're not, but the point is no, hold on. You're an expert, but part of your qualification is the experience that you have with it.
Of course.
And you don't appear...
35 years
Do you have the certificate?
Yes, I've got the certificate.
Paul, he says that he's got... Which certificate is it you're asking?
He's only got the Observer, which is a technical level to read thermometers and things.
No.
Let me finish. Please let me finish.
Well, I'm just asking.
He's only got
the basics of what we do,
and
Paul.
he's not a professional meteorologist. That's just a fact in this country. There's only one organisation allowed to give that,
what is
and it's the Royal Meteorological... And by the way...
paid for what you do.
I would like to answer the bit about me.
Let him finish and then we'll come back, because you have also said that he's not a climate scientist.
Yes, I'd like to answer that. Right. OK. I'm accepted by Clintel as a climate scientist because my work was hydroclimatology. I was looking into the real world for droughts, floods, and I found the sunspot cycle in that data, etc. So I did a lot of work on that. In addition to that, I've been in charge of a whole country's meteorological measuring system and so on. So in addition to that, I've got a Master of Science in it and so on. So what Jim doesn't understand, because he has no scientific training at all, is that when you go to look up, and anyone can do this, and I've got the qualifications here if you want to see it. If you want to go and be a meteorologist in the Royal Society, I found a chap straight away, the first one I looked at, who's got the same experience as me, right? We have slightly different experience, but the same. I'm qualified in science, he's not.
Hang on. So he's not qualified at all. No. I think we can stop there, because you've also said that somebody has experience and they're qualified. He has experience and certificates. You are both qualified.
OK, so we're here.
So stop saying that.
And Paul's out on a limb somewhere with the rest of it, with a little section of the universe, and I got the Met Office, NOAA, NASA, and everybody else behind me. So I'm quite happy with that.
No, listen, you are both very qualified, but you cannot continue to tell Paul that he has not got qualifications. He's told you, and you've said as well.
Remember,
so
hang on. It was the other way around, remember?
What do you mean the other way around?
Paul called me out.
Well, yes,
not remember that.
You have called me out continually.
As well. So the two of you, now we accept that we are both qualified. You're both qualified, but in different ways. No more of that. Thank you very much.
Okay.